Admiral Ji-hoon Kang stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant and watched the enemy fleet appear on his screens. The ships kept coming. 10 ships, 100 ships, 1,000 ships. The numbers climbed higher and higher until his tactical officer stopped counting at 10,000. "Sir, they're holding position at the system's edge," the officer said. His voice shook slightly. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. He had known this day would come. For 5 years, humanity had tried to make peace with the Galactic Collective. For 5 years, the aliens had treated humans like annoying insects. Now the insects had finally made the ancient powers angry enough to act. "How long until they reach weapons range?" Ji-hoon asked. "At their current speed. 72 hours, sir." 72 hours, 3 days. That was all the time humanity had left to exist as a free species. On the other side of the solar system, Dr. Hannah Park was working in her laboratory deep inside Jupiter's moon Ganymede. She had not slept in 30 hours. Her hands moved quickly across her computer screens, checking numbers and running tests. Everything had to be perfect. There would be no second chance. "Hannah, you need to rest," said Taeyang Kim. He was her oldest friend and the only other person in the facility who knew what they had really built. "I'll rest when I'm dead," Hannah said without looking up, "which will probably be in 72 hours if this doesn't work." Taeyang moved closer and put his hand on her shoulder. "Are you sure about this? Really sure? Once we do this, there's no going back." "Not for anyone." Hannah finally stopped working and looked at him. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "They gave us a choice, Taeyang. Submit or die. Those are the only options they're offering. I'm just making sure we have a third option." "A third option that might be worse than both," Taeyang said quietly. Before Hannah could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the facility. A message flashed across every screen. "Protocol. Starfall activated. Stand by for orders." Hannah and Taeyang looked at each other. It was really happening. In orbit around Mars, Captain Yuna Lee was climbing into her fighter cockpit when the order came through. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Then she started laughing. It was not a happy laugh. "What's funny, Captain?" asked her wingman over the radio. "We're supposed to slow them down," Yuna said. 200 fighters against 10,000 capital ships. We're supposed to slow them down. How long do we need to hold them? 72 hours. There was silence on the radio. Everyone knew the math. 200 fighters would last maybe 2 hours against that fleet. Probably less. "Well," her wingman finally said, "at least we'll make them remember us." Yuna smiled inside her helmet. Humans were good at being remembered. "All wings, check your systems. We launch in 10 minutes. Let's go introduce ourselves to the neighbors." On Earth, Counselor Minho Choi sat in the emergency government bunker and watched the diplomatic channels. He had spent the last 5 years trying to convince the Galactic Collective that humanity deserved a place among the stars. He had failed. The final message from the Collective High Command was still displayed on his screen. He had read it so many times he had memorized every word. "The species called humanity is an infestation. You spread too quickly. You adapt too easily. You refuse to accept your proper place. The Collective has decided. You will submit to our guidance or you will be removed. You have 72 hours to choose. This is not a negotiation." Minho had tried one last time to respond. He had begged, reasoned, and offered everything humanity had. The Collective had not even bothered to reply. Now he watched Admiral Ji-hoon's face on another screen as they discussed Protocol Starfall. Minho had never heard of it before today. Apparently, almost no one had. "How long have you been building this?" Minho asked. 15 years, Ji-hoon said. "Since we first detected their transmissions and realized we weren't alone. Some people thought we should prepare for friendship. Others thought we should prepare for war. A few of us decided to prepare for extinction. And this weapon will save us?" Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. "It will make sure we don't face extinction alone." Minho felt cold. "What does that mean?" "It means, Counselor, that if humanity burns, we're taking their galaxy with us." Back on Ganymede, Hannah was deep inside the research facility, standing in front of the resonance engine. It looked nothing like a weapon. It looked like a massive sphere of crystal and metal, suspended in the center of a chamber that stretched down into Jupiter's core. Energy from the giant planet's magnetic field flowed into it constantly, being stored and compressed and refined. 15 years, Hana said to herself. 15 years of work for one moment. She thought about her family. Her parents had died during the First Contact War, when a collective patrol ship had destroyed a civilian transport for entering the wrong sector of space. No warning. No mercy. Just gone. That was when Hana had realized the truth. The collective did not see humans as equals. They saw humans as a problem to be managed. And if humans became too much of a problem, the collective would solve them permanently. So Hana had built a solution of her own. The resonance engine did not work like normal weapons. It did not fire missiles or energy beams. Instead, it attacked something much deeper. It attacked the foundation that made galactic civilization possible. Faster-than-light travel worked because of quantum echo points, special locations in space where the laws of physics bent in useful ways. Every spacefaring species used them. The whole galaxy was connected by them. Without them, there was no FTL. Without FTL, there was no galactic civilization. The resonance engine would destroy every quantum echo point in the galaxy at the same moment. Not damage them. Not disrupt them. Destroy them completely and permanently. 10,000 alien ships would suddenly find themselves stranded hundreds of light years from home. Every species that had conquered the stars would be trapped in their own solar systems. The galaxy would go quiet, including humanity. Hana's computer beeped. A message from Admiral Ji-hoon. Dr. Park, you are authorized to begin the charging sequence. May God forgive us all. Hana's hands moved across the controls. Deep inside Jupiter, the resonance engine began to wake up. She had 72 hours to make sure it was ready. 72 hours until humanity played its final card. Outside her window, she could see the stars. In 3 days, those stars would still be there. But no one would be able to reach them anymore. The countdown had begun. The first day of the countdown passed in chaos. Across human space, people tried to evacuate the outer colonies. Ships that could barely fly were being loaded with families and supplies. Everyone wanted to get closer to Earth, closer to the military, closer to something that felt safe. On Proxima Station, a woman named Narration was not evacuating. Instead, she was recording everything with her camera. She walked through the crowded corridors, filming people saying goodbye, children crying, and old men staring at the stars through observation windows. "Why are you doing this?" someone asked her. "Because someone needs to remember," Nari said. "If we die, if we win, if something else happens, someone needs to remember what these days were like." She uploaded her recordings to every human server she could reach. If humanity survived, this would be their history. If they did not, maybe someone else would find it someday and know that they had tried. Back on Ganymede, Taeyong Kim could not stop thinking about what they were going to do. He found Hana in the control room, watching the resonance engine's power levels climb slowly higher. "I did the calculations again," Taeyang said. "Do you know how many species this will affect?" Hana did not look at him. "Don't tell me. I don't want to know." "Over 2,000, Taeyang continued anyway. 2,000 civilizations, billions of beings, maybe trillions, all of them about to lose everything they've built for the last 10,000 years. They should have thought about that before threatening us with extinction," Hana said. "This isn't justice, Hana. This is revenge on a galactic scale." Now Hana did turn to look at him. Her face was tired, but her eyes were hard. "No, Taeyang. Revenge would be if we killed them all. We're not doing that. We're just making sure they can't kill us. If that means the whole galaxy has to slow down, then that's what happens." "We'll slow down too," Taeyang said. "Every human colony will be isolated. Earth won't be able to talk to Mars in real time. Proxima Station will be alone for 4 years just to get a message to Earth. We're destroying ourselves too." "No," Hana said quietly. "We're saving ourselves. There's a difference." Before Taeyang could argue more, alarms sounded again. The collective fleet was moving. They were advancing ahead of schedule. Captain Yuna Lee saw them coming on her scanners. The enemy fleet was splitting up, with the fastest ships moving forward. They would reach the outer defense line in 6 hours instead of the planned 3 days. "All fighters, this is Captain Lee," she said over the radio. "The party's starting early. Form up on my position. We're going to show them what happens when they rush humans." Her squadron of 200 fighters moved to intercept. They were tiny compared to the alien warships. One fighter was smaller than a single weapon on the enemy's capital ships. But Yuna had learned something during the first contact war. Big ships were slow. Big ships had blind spots. Big ships could be hurt if you were fast enough and crazy enough. "Remember," she told her pilots, "we don't have to win. We just have to slow them down. Hit and run. Never stay still. Make them chase us." The first enemy ships opened fire. Space lit up with energy weapons and missiles. Yuna's fighter twisted and dove, her hands moving faster than thought. She fired her weapons at a cruiser's engine section and saw explosions blossom across its hull. Then she was gone, racing away before return fire could find her. Around her, other fighters were doing the same. They were like angry insects stinging a giant. Each sting alone was nothing. But hundreds of stings started to hurt. 3 enemy ships broke formation to chase the fighters. Yuna smiled. That was the idea. Make them angry. Make them slow. Buy time. But fighters were dying too. She watched one of her pilots take a direct hit and vanish in a flash of light. Then another. Then 3 more in quick succession. "Keep moving," Yuna shouted. "Don't give them an easy target." On Earth, Admiral Ji-hoon was watching the battle and counting the losses. 200 fighters had become 180, then 160. The pilots were doing everything they could, but mathematics did not care about courage. Commander Daewon Sung entered the command center. He was in full combat armor and carrying enough weapons to fight a small war by himself. "Admiral, I have new orders?" Daewon asked. Ji-hoon handed him a data chip. "The collective knows we're planning something. They don't know what, but they know. They've sent infiltration teams to every major research facility in the solar system. Your job is to make sure none of them reach Ganymede." Daewon looked at the chip and then at Ji-hoon. "You want me to protect Dr. Park's facility. I want you to protect the only weapon that can save us." "Sir, I don't have enough people to defend against a serious assault." "Then make sure it's not a serious assault," Ji-hoon said. "Slow them down. Misdirect them. Buy time. That's all anyone can do right now. Buy time." Daewon nodded and left. Ji-hoon watched him go and wondered how many more people he would send to die before this was over. On Ganymede, Hana felt the facility shake. Explosions echoed through the tunnels. Daewon's voice came over the intercom. "Dr. Park, we have hostile contacts attempting to breach the outer doors. How much time do you need?" Hana checked her screens. The resonance engine was at 40% charge. 48 hours minimum, 50 to be safe." "We don't have 50 hours, Daewon said. "The collective's main fleet will be in weapons range in 30 hours. They're moving faster than predicted." Hana felt her stomach drop. They had planned for 72 hours. Now they had 30. "Can you speed up the charging process?" Taeyang asked. "Not without risking a catastrophic failure," Hana said. "If the engine explodes, it takes Jupiter with it. And us, and Mars, and probably Earth too." More explosions shook the facility, closer this time. "I can hold them for maybe 20 hours, Daewon said over the intercom. "After that, they'll break through." 20 hours to charge, 10 more hours after that before the collective fleet arrived. Hana ran the numbers in her head. It was going to be close, very close. "Do it," she told Taeyang. "Increase the charge rate by 30%. If the engine destabilizes, we'll deal with it. And if we can't stabilize it, then at least we all die together," Hana said. "Better than dying on our knees." Taeyang's hands moved across the controls. Deep inside Jupiter, the resonance engine began drawing more power. The crystal sphere started glowing brighter. Energy readings climbed faster and faster. In space above them, Yuna's fighter wing was down to 90 pilots. She was exhausted. Her fighter had been hit twice and was barely holding together. But the enemy advance had slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. On Earth, Counselor Minho Choi tried one last time to send a message to the collective. Please, there must be another way. We can negotiate. We can find peace. The only response was silence. The countdown continued. 30 hours until the fleet arrived. 20 hours until the facility's defenses fell. And somewhere in between, the resonance engine would either save humanity or destroy everything. Narration kept recording. The people kept evacuating. The fighters kept dying. And deep inside Jupiter's moon, a weapon continued charging that would change the galaxy forever. Commander Daewon Sung fired his weapon down the corridor and watched 3 alien infiltrators fall. His armor was damaged in 6 places. He had been fighting for 18 hours straight. Behind him, the last door before Hana's control room was sealed shut. "Dr. Park," he said into his radio, "they're through the outer defenses. I'm falling back to your position. How much longer?" 6 hours, Hana's voice crackled back. "The engine is at 80% charge." "We don't have 6 hours, Daewon said. He threw a grenade around the corner and heard it explode. "We have maybe 2, if I'm lucky." In the control room, Hana looked at Taeyang. "Can we fire at 80%? Taeyang ran calculations on his computer. "Maybe. The effect would be weaker. It might not reach the whole galaxy. Parts of the quantum network might survive." "Good enough," Hana said. "We fire at 80%. "That's still 4 hours away," Taeyang said. Hana closed her eyes. 4 hours. Daewon had said 2 hours at most. They were going to lose. Then, Admiral Jaihun's voice came over every speaker in the facility. "Dr. Park, this is Admiral Kang. Captain Lee is inbound to your position with what's left of her fighter wing. They'll buy you the time you need." Hana opened her eyes. "The fighter wing? But the collective fleet is no longer our biggest problem," Ji-hoon said. His voice was tired. "Saving the weapon is. Captain Lee understands this. She's coming." In space above Ganymede, Captain Yuna Lee pushed her damaged fighter toward the moon's surface. Behind her, only 7 other fighters remained from the original 200. They had bought every second they could from the collective fleet. Now it was time to buy more. "This is Captain Lee to all fighters," she said. "We're going in. Scan for enemy positions around the research facility. We clear them out." Her fighter dropped into the moon's thin atmosphere. She saw the alien ships immediately. 6 assault craft hovering around the facility entrances, dropping soldiers constantly. Yuna armed every weapon she had left. "All wings, weapons free. For humanity." 8 human fighters dove at the alien ships. Missiles and energy weapons lit up the dark surface of Ganymede. 2 alien ships exploded immediately. A third tried to flee and was cut apart by laser fire. The others began firing back. Yuna felt her fighter take another hit. Warning alarms screamed at her. She ignored them and fired everything at the closest assault craft. It broke apart in a brilliant explosion. Then her fighter's engines failed. She was falling. The moon's surface rushed up toward her. At the last second, her emergency thrusters fired and she hit the ground hard but alive. Her cockpit was cracked. Her radio was dead. But she was alive. Through the broken cockpit, she saw the other fighters still fighting. 3 left now. Then 2. Then just 1. The last fighter managed to destroy the remaining assault ships before enemy fire finally caught it. The fighter exploded in silence. Yuna climbed out of her wreckage. She could see the facility entrance a kilometer away. Between her and it, she saw alien soldiers moving. She checked her pistol. 8 shots left. Not enough. Not nearly enough. She started walking anyway. Inside the facility, Daewon heard the explosion stop. He risked a look around the corner and saw the alien soldiers retreating in confusion. Something had hit them from outside. Something had bought them time. He keyed his radio. "Dr. Park, I don't know what just happened, but the pressure's off. How much time now?" 3 hours, Hana said. Her voice shook slightly. 3 more hours. Daewon reloaded his weapon. "Then I'll hold for 3 hours." But the aliens were not done. They had lost their assault ships, but they still had soldiers on the ground. Lots of soldiers. They began advancing again, more carefully this time. Daewon fell back to the final door. This was it. No more retreating. No more running. This door led directly to the control room. If they got through, humanity lost everything. He checked his ammunition. 2 magazines left. He had grenades. He had his armor's self-destruct charge. If it came to it, he would bring the whole tunnel down on them. The first alien came around the corner. Daewon shot it. Then another. Then 3 more. They kept coming. His magazine ran empty. He loaded his last one. On the other side of the door, Hana heard the gunfire. She looked at the charge meter. 85%. 90%. Every percentage point felt like an hour. "We could fire now," Taeyong said quietly. 90% might be enough. "Day 1 is dying out there to buy us time," Hana said. "We use all of it. 100% or nothing." Taeyong nodded. He understood. In space, the collective's main fleet had finally reached Earth. Admiral Ji-hoon watched 10,000 ships spread across his screens like a swarm. Earth's defense fleet was positioned between the enemy and the planet. 300 ships against 10,000. The mathematics of extinction. The collective's flagship sent a message. "This is your final chance. Surrender now and we will allow your species to survive under our control. Refuse and we will destroy everything." Ji-hoon looked at his communications officer. "How long until Dr. Park is ready?" 2 hours, sir." 2 hours. The collective would not wait 2 hours. They had already been patient by their standards. "Send a response," Ji-hoon said. "Tell them we need time to coordinate the surrender. Tell them our government is meeting to discuss terms. Tell them anything. By minutes." The message went out. The collective fleet held its position. But everyone knew it would not last. On Ganymede, Daewon's last magazine was empty. He drew his pistol. The aliens were at the door now, trying to cut through with plasma torches. He could see the metal glowing red. They would be through in minutes. He activated his armor's self-destruct and set it for 2 minutes. If he could not hold them, he would at least collapse the tunnel. Then he heard something behind the aliens. Gunfire. Someone was shooting at them from their rear. The aliens turned in confusion. In that confusion, Daewon saw a figure in a torn flight suit firing a pistol with incredible accuracy. Captain Yuna Lee had made it to the facility. The aliens were caught between them. Daewon fired his pistol. Yuna fired hers. One by one, the aliens fell. Then Yuna's pistol clicked empty. An alien raised its weapon toward her. Daewon's pistol clicked empty too. The alien prepared to fire. Inside the control room, the charge meter hit 100%. Every alarm in the facility started ringing. The resonance engine was ready. "Firing sequence initiated," Hana said. Her hand moved to the activation switch. "All human vessels, this is Dr. Park at Ganymede Station. Quantum echo point collapse in 10 seconds. 9, 8. In space, the collective flagship detected the energy surge. Their sensors went crazy with warnings. "What is that?" the collective commander demanded. "What are they doing?" 7, 6, 5. Admiral Ji-hoon broadcast on all frequencies. "To every species in the galaxy, we asked for peace. You gave us war. We asked for mercy. You gave us extinction, so we give you this. Remember that humanity did not start this, but we will finish it. 4, 3, 2. Hana looked at Taeyong one last time. He nodded. On the other side of the door, Daewon heard the countdown and smiled. They had done it. They had bought enough time. 1. Hana pressed the activation switch. The resonance engine fired. Nothing visible happened. No beam of light. No explosion. No sound. But across the galaxy, in every quantum echo point where the laws of physics bent to allow faster-than-light travel, something fundamental changed. The quantum frequencies that had existed for billions of years suddenly collapsed. Echo points died. In the space around Earth, 10,000 alien ships suddenly found their FTL drives dead. Warning alarms filled every vessel as their crews realized they were stranded. On Ganymede, the alien soldier about to shoot Yuna Lee froze. His communication device was screaming at him in his own language. Every ship in his fleet was stranded. There was no extraction, no rescue, no way home. Daewon shot him anyway. Admiral Ji-hoon watched his sensors show the results. Every FTL signature in the system had vanished. Every quantum communication link was dead. The galaxy had gone quiet. Send the message, Ji-hoon said quietly. Lightspeed broadcast to all frequencies. Tell them what we've done. The message went out at the speed of light. It would take years to reach most of the galaxy, but it would reach them eventually. We asked for peace. You chose extinction, so we chose this. No one travels the stars today. No one travels them tomorrow. Maybe no one travels them again. The galaxy is quiet now, and in that quiet, we are all equal. The stars had gone silent. The first week after the silencing was chaos. 10,000 alien ships were stranded in human space with no way home. Some tried to attack out of anger. Others tried to negotiate. Many simply waited, hoping their FTL drives would somehow start working again. They never did. Admiral Ji-hoon stood in the command center and watched the situation reports come in. The collective flagship had sent 17 messages requesting talks. He had ignored all of them. Let them wait. Let them feel what helplessness was like. On Ganymede, Hannah Park sat in her quarters and stared at her hands. These hands had changed the galaxy. She had expected to feel triumph or guilt or something. Instead, she just felt tired. Taeyang Kim found her there 3 hours later. The engine worked perfectly, he said. Every quantum echo point in the galaxy is gone. Our long-range scanners show the same signatures across hundreds of light years. It's complete. How long until it can be reversed? Hannah asked. Taeyang sat down beside her. I've been running calculations. With our current technology, maybe 200 years. Maybe 500. Maybe never. Hannah closed her eyes. What have I done? You saved us, Taeyang said quietly. That's what you did. Across human space, people were beginning to understand what the silencing meant. Every human colony was now alone. Mars could not talk to Earth in real time anymore. Messages between them would take minutes. Proxima Station would take over 4 years to receive a message from Earth. But humans had prepared for this. After the First Contact War, every colony had been built to survive on its own. Every settlement had its own food production, its own manufacturing, its own resources. Humanity had learned to be independent because they knew what it was like to be abandoned. The aliens had not learned that lesson. A woman named Sora Bay worked as a xenolinguist on Mars. Her job had been to help communicate with alien species. Now she had a new job. She was trying to talk to the stranded alien ships using old-fashioned light-speed laser communication. It took 8 hours to send a message and get a response. But slowly, carefully, Sora began making contact. The first species to respond were called the Velkari. Their science vessel had been studying human space when the silencing happened. Unlike the warships, the science vessel had not come to threaten anyone. We mean you no harm, the Velkari message said. We are scientists, not soldiers. But our supplies are limited. We have food for 3 months, water for 4. We cannot reach our home. We will die here unless you help us. Sora brought the message to the colony administrator, a man named Jinwoo Han. He read it twice before responding. What do you think? He asked Sora. I think they're telling the truth, she said. Their ship's profile matches a research vessel, and they're right about supplies. Most collective ships were designed for short missions with regular FTL resupply. They never planned to be stranded. Jinwoo thought about it. The easy choice would be to let them die. They were part of the collective, after all, the collective that had threatened humanity with extinction. But Jinwoo remembered something his grandmother had told him. The measure of a person is not how they treat their friends. It's how they treat their enemies when those enemies are helpless. Send a response, Jinwoo said. Tell them we'll provide humanitarian aid, food, water, medical supplies. In exchange, they share their scientific data and help us understand their technology. Sora sent the message. 8 hours later, the response came back. The Velkari agreed. It was the first treaty signed in the quiet galaxy. On Earth, a military historian named Yoonji Kwon was collecting every piece of information about the silencing. She interviewed soldiers, scientists, civilians, and refugees. She wanted to understand exactly what had happened and why. She found Narishin's documentary recordings and watched them all. Hours and hours of footage showing the last days before the weapon fired. People saying goodbye, children afraid of the dark, old men watching the stars and wondering if this was the end. Yoonji decided to make sure these recordings were saved everywhere. Every colony, every station, every ship. Future generations needed to see this. They needed to remember what had driven humanity to such a desperate choice. Meanwhile, the stranded collective ships were facing reality. Their grand fleet of 10,000 warships was suddenly just 10,000 very expensive prison cells. Some ships had food for months. Others had weeks. None had years. The collective flagship finally sent a different kind of message. Not a threat, not a demand, a request. Admiral Ji-hoon read it carefully. The collective commander wanted to negotiate a ceasefire. In exchange for human aid, the collective ships would withdraw to the edge of the solar system and cause no trouble. Ji-hoon sent the message to Earth's government. Counselor Minho Choi, the man who had spent 5 years trying to make peace, read it with mixed feelings. "They're asking for mercy," Minho said. "The same mercy they refused to give us." "What do you recommend?" Ji-hoon asked. Minho thought about all the negotiations that had failed. All the times the collective had treated him like an annoying child. All the insults and threats. Then he thought about what kind of galaxy he wanted to live in. "Accept their terms," Minho said, "but add conditions. They share their star charts, their historical records, and their technical databases. They teach us about the other species in the galaxy, and they formally recognize humanity's sovereignty over our space." "They won't accept that," Ji-hoon said. "They will," Minho replied, "because the alternative is watching their crews starve." The message went out. 3 days later, the collective accepted. The war was over. Not because anyone won, but because continuing to fight would kill everyone. On Ganymede, Taeyong Kim was working on something new. If the quantum echo points could be destroyed, maybe they could be rebuilt. It would take centuries, but it was possible. He began writing the theoretical framework for what he called the Restoration Project. Hana found him working late one night. "Do you really think we can fix this?" she asked. "Eventually," Taeyong said. "But I've been thinking, maybe we shouldn't rush to fix it." "Why not?" Taeyong pulled up a star chart showing light-speed communication times. "Look at this. Right now, it takes 4 years for Earth to get a message to Proxima Station. That's slow. But you know what's interesting? It's forcing us to think long-term, to plan carefully, to value patience." He switched to a different display showing collective communications before the silencing. They could talk across the galaxy instantly. Do you know what that created? Impatience. Short-term thinking. The idea that everything had to be solved immediately. That's part of why they were so quick to threaten extinction. They had no patience for negotiation because they never had to be patient about anything. Hana looked at the charts and understood. The quiet galaxy might actually be better. "Maybe," Taeyang said, "at least for a while. Let everyone slow down. Learn to think in generations instead of quarters. When we do restore FTL, maybe we'll appreciate it more." Light-speed messages from distant parts of the galaxy began arriving at Earth. It would take years for most of them to reach humanity, but the first messages were coming from nearby systems. Some messages were distress calls. Species that had been completely dependent on FTL supply lines were collapsing. Others were declarations of war as old enemies took advantage of the collective's broken communication network. But some messages were different. Some species were adapting, making local alliances, learning to be patient, starting to think about their neighbors differently because their neighbors were the only people they could reach now. On Mars, the Valkyrie science ship docked at a human station for the first time. Sora Bay was there to meet them. The Valkyrie captain was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. He looked around the station with obvious curiosity. "This is smaller than our stations," he said through a translator device. "We build smaller because we can't rely on FTL resupply," Sora explained. "Everything has to be self-sufficient." The Valkyrie captain was quiet for a moment. "That is wise. We should have learned to build this way." We assumed the galaxy would always be connected. So did we, Sora said. Then we learned we were wrong. Now everyone else is learning the same lesson. 5 months after the silencing, humanity held a memorial service for everyone who had died in the final battle. Captain Yuna Lee attended with the other 7 surviving pilots from her wing. Commander Daewon Sung attended with his arm in a cast. Dr. Hana Park stood at the back and watched quietly. Admiral Ji-hoon gave a speech. We did not want this war. We did not want to change the galaxy. We wanted only to live free. When that freedom was threatened, we made an impossible choice. We sacrificed the stars to save ourselves. History will judge whether we were right. But we will live to see that judgment. That is what matters. After the ceremony, Minho Choi found Hana standing alone. How do you feel? He asked. I don't know, Hana said honestly. Ask me in 100 years. Minho smiled slightly. That's the thing about the quiet galaxy. We have time now, all the time in the world. The stars were still quiet. But in that quiet, something new was growing. Not the old galaxy of instant communication and ancient powers. Something smaller, more patient, more human. 5 years had passed since the silencing. The galaxy was a different place now. Admiral Ji-hoon Kang was retired. He lived in a small house on Earth where he could see the ocean. Young officers visited him sometimes, asking questions about those final days. He always answered honestly. Yes, he would make the same choice again. No, he did not regret it. Yes, he understood what it had cost. On Mars, the colony had grown larger than anyone expected. Humans and aliens now lived and worked together. The Velkari science ship had become a permanent part of the station. Other species had followed. Not invaders. Not conquerors. Just people looking for a place to survive. Sora Bay had become famous across human space for her work in creating the first real translation protocols. She could now communicate with 17 different species without computer assistance. More importantly, she had taught others to do the same. She stood in the observation deck with a Velkari scientist whose name translated roughly as Seeker of Distant Truth. They had become friends over the years. A ship from Earth arrived today, Sora said. They say more species are asking to join the local alliance. The Velkari nodded with all 4 arms. 5 years ago, my people thought humans were primitive. Now half the species in this region look to humanity for guidance. Strange how things change. We're not guiding anyone, Sora said. We're just doing what we always did. Building things that last. Planning for the long term. Being patient. Exactly, the Velkari said. The rest of us are still learning how. On Ganymede, Dr. Hana Park was leading the restoration project. The work was slow, incredibly slow, but it was possible. They had proven that quantum echo points could be artificially created. Small ones. Temporary ones. Nothing like what existed before. But it was a start. Taeyong Kim worked beside her as always. They had become more than colleagues over the years. Not romantic partners exactly, but something deeper. 2 people who had changed the galaxy together and now had to live with what they had done. The calculations are complete, Taeyong said one morning. If we dedicate full resources, we could have stable echo points rebuilt in 200 years. 200 years, Hana repeated. She would be dead long before then. Everyone she knew would be dead. Have you told the council? Not yet. I wanted to ask you first. Do we want to rebuild them? Hana was quiet for a long time. 5 years ago, I would have said yes immediately. Now I'm not sure. The quiet galaxy has problems, but it also has something we never had before. What's that? Time to think, Hana said. No species can move fast enough to threaten anyone else. No empire can expand quickly. If someone wants to invade another system, it's a decades-long commitment. That makes war a lot less appealing. Taeyong understood. So we could restore FTL, but maybe we shouldn't. Not yet. Maybe not for a few generations, Hana agreed. Let the galaxy learn patience first. Captain Yuna Lee had been promoted to commander. She now led humanity's sublight exploration fleet. These were slow ships designed for voyages that would take decades. No one expected quick results anymore. She was about to leave on a 40-year journey to a nearby star system. Her ship was loaded with supplies, equipment, and 500 volunteers willing to spend most of their lives traveling. Some were elderly and would not see the destination. Others were young and would arrive in their middle years. Before departure, a young pilot asked Yuna why anyone would volunteer for such a mission. "Because it matters," Yuna said simply. "Because in 40 years there will be humans in a new star system. They'll build a new colony. They'll have children who will never see Earth. And one day those children will send their own ships to other stars. That's how we expand now. Slowly, patiently, but we still expand." "Don't you wish we still had FTL?" the young pilot asked. Yuna thought about her final battle, about the 200 pilots who had followed her, about how 7 had survived. FTL made everything fast, including decisions about who lives and who dies. Maybe slow is better. On Earth, Counselor Minho Choi had become the primary representative for the local alliance. 14 species now officially recognized human sovereignty and worked together on trade, defense, and research. It was not a galactic civilization. It was something smaller and more stable. He met with Admiral Jae-hoon sometimes. 2 old men who had been there when everything changed. "Messages are still arriving from distant parts of the galaxy," Minho said during one visit. "The ones sent 5 years ago are finally reaching us." "What do they say?" Ji-hoon asked. "Some species collapsed completely. Their entire civilization depended on FTL logistics. When that stopped, they fell apart." Minho paused. "Others adapted, formed local alliances like we did. The galaxy isn't unified anymore. It's broken into thousands of small regional groups." "Is that better or worse?" Minho considered the question. "Different. The old galaxy had peace enforced by the collective's overwhelming power. This galaxy has peace because war is too expensive and too slow. I'm not sure which is more stable long-term." A young woman named Min Ji-yoon had been born just before the silencing. Now she was starting her political career. She represented a new generation that had never known FTL travel. To them, the quiet galaxy was normal. She attended a council meeting where they discussed the restoration project's findings. The room full of older leaders debated whether to rebuild the quantum echo points. Minji listened and then spoke. "Why do we need FTL?" The room went quiet. Everyone stared at her. "I'm serious," Minji continued. "Our colonies are self-sufficient. Our alliances are stable. Our expansion continues. What problem does FTL solve that we currently have?" An older counselor spoke up. "It would let us communicate faster, travel faster, build a galactic civilization again." "The last galactic civilization threatened us with extinction," Minji said calmly. "Maybe we don't need that again. Maybe what we have now is better." The debate continued for hours. No decisions were made, but seeds were planted. On Proxima Station, Narration was still recording. Her documentary project had become a historical archive. Everything about the silencing, the aftermath, the adaptation. Future generations would know exactly what had happened and why. She had just received a light-speed message from Earth. It had taken 4 years to arrive. The message was from a historian asking for her original footage. The request was 4 years old now. Her response would take another 4 years to arrive. Nari smiled. Once, that delay would have been frustrating. Now it was just life. You sent a message and waited. You planned projects that would take years to complete. You thought about tomorrow and next week and next decade all differently. The quiet galaxy had taught patience. The Velkari captain, seeker of distant truth, approached Sora Bay with a request. His science vessel wanted to make a journey. A slow journey to another star system to establish contact with other Velkari who had been stranded there 5 years ago. "It will take 12 years, he said. Maybe more. But they are our people. We want to see them again." "Will you come back?" Sora asked. "Eventually, in 20 years perhaps. Will you still be here?" Sora thought about it. 20 years. She would be middle-aged by then. "I'll be here," she said. "We'll be here. That's what humans do. We stay. We build. We wait." The Valkyrie nodded with all four arms. I am beginning to understand why your species survived when others did not. 6 months after that conversation, something remarkable happened. A collective ship that had been stranded 5 years ago formally requested to join the human alliance. Not as conquerors, as equals. The council debated for weeks. Finally, Minho Choi put it to a vote. The motion passed by a narrow margin. The former enemy was welcomed. At the ceremony, the collective captain made a short speech. 5 years ago, we came to destroy you. You responded by destroying the galaxy. We thought it was revenge. Now we understand it was justice. You made us all equal. For that, we thank you. Admiral Ji-hoon watched the ceremony on his screen at home. He thought about all the decisions that had led to this moment. The weapon, the firing, the consequences. Would he do it again? Yes. Without hesitation. Not because it was perfect, but because humanity had survived. That was the only thing that mattered. Dr. Hannah Park held a press conference about the restoration project. Reporters from across human space attended via light-speed link. The questions were predictable. When would FTL return? How long would it take? Should they rebuild the old system or create something new? Hannah answered them all honestly. Then she said something that would be quoted for generations. We can restore FTL whenever we want. The question is not when. The question is, should we? The quiet galaxy has given us something precious. Time, patience, humility. Before we rush to restore what was lost, we should ask ourselves what we might lose if we succeed. The press conference ended. The debate continued. Captain Yuna Lee's exploration ship launched on schedule. 500 people heading into the dark for 40 years. They would arrive at a new star, build a new home, send messages back to Earth that would take decades to arrive, and Earth would receive those messages and celebrate. Not because it was fast, because it was possible. The galaxy remained quiet. 10,000 civilizations learning to think in longer terms, learning patience, learning that speed was not always strength. And humanity, the species that had silenced the stars, quietly continued building. One colony at a time, one alliance at a time, one generation at a time. Admiral Ji-hoon wrote one final entry in his personal log, the one that would be sealed for 50 years after his death. They said we destroyed the galaxy. They were wrong. We saved it. Not from the collective, from itself. The old galaxy was too fast, too connected, too impatient. Species made decisions in hours that should have taken years. They started wars in days that should have been impossible. The quantum echo points made the galaxy small, and small galaxies breed big conflicts. We made the galaxy large again. We made every decision costly, every war impractical, every alliance meaningful. Did we do the right thing? Ask me in 1,000 years, but we did the only thing. And we survived. That's all that matters. We survived. And now, in the quiet, we are finally learning what it means to truly live among the stars. The stars remained quiet. And in that quiet, humanity thrived.